Well, hello! Welcome to the Magical Mystery School, and thank you so much for coming back. We're up to little class 34. Wow! So we've gone through all the planets and the signs and how to set up the chart, transits, aspects. We just got done with looking at all the transits, and of course, you all are very aware that I could spend much more time on those transits, but like I said, I'm giving you the sprinkles on the icing in this class. So what we're going to talk about today are the nodes of the moon, which is still very important, and Chiron. Because I'm going to do this class, and I'm going to do one more, kind of just finishing things up, basically. So here's the glyph for the nodes of the moon. So it basically looks like a horseshoe with little circles. And there's two. There's a north node and a south node. And they're always directly opposite one another. So they'll be, a lot of times when you get your chart, only the north node's going to show up on the chart. But just know that polar opposite to the minute will be the south node. Now, nodes are just basically a point up in space, and I'm going to show you, I've got a little drawing here to kind of help you out, show you that a little bit more. But the nodes are important because they're karma. They're what you're here to, it's kind of the focus. It'll give you some real good clues on what your focus is in life. Oh, I forgot to put my gloves on. And it's also tells you what you've brought in from your past life too, basically. So the north node, sometimes it's also called the ascending node, and the south node, the descending node. And then when I was learning astrology, we called it the north node the head of the dragon, and the south node the tail of the dragon. And in Vedic astrology, they also call it Rahu and Ketu. Now, I apologize to all Vedic astrologers. I probably totally dismantled that. But anyway, just be aware that that's... it's also very important in Vedic astrology. And there's also a brand of astrology from Western astrology called evolutionary astrology that Jeff Green put together. And the gal that I go do my astrology readings with, oh, there it is. Her name is Kim Marie, and she's an evolutionary astrology. And they rely very heavily on the nodes and Pluto. So you can just Google Kim Marie astrologer and you'll find it, but this is the name of her web page too. And she's not a whole lot on YouTube, but she does have a web page, and she still does readings. So I think from there, I think I'm going to go ahead and just put you on pause so that we can look at this drawing together. Okay, so here's one of my wonderful teaching aids again. So basically, remember our astrology, it's geocentric. So we're always looking from the Earth out into the solar system and the universe. So we know that the sun up here is stationary, basically, and compared to us, and that we're rotating around that, or orbiting around it. And we're rotating in place here. But since we're doing our astrology from the view on Earth, there's this thing called the ecliptic, which is basically what the path of the sun is, the view of the sun from Earth. So even though we know that the sun isn't revolving around us, there's still this path of when we see the sun. Okay, now another part of the nodes, and all the planets have nodes, but Uranus has nodes, Mars has nodes, but we're just going to be looking at the nodes of the moon. So the moon is going to be rotates around the Earth, and you all know that this is all out of proportion. I've just drawn this so we could see it, and it's not to scale or anything like that. And as the moon, so the moon describes another circle around the Earth. That's the orbit of the moon. Now, when you get to the place where these two views basically are the orbit and then the view of the ecliptic, when they connect, that creates one of the nodes. Now, this one, as you can see, the orbit of the Earth is going to be above the ecliptic. So this is remember how I said one of the names was the ascending node? So the north node, or the ascending node, is right here where the ecliptic and the lunar orbit actually intersect each other. And then down here where we have, and then the orbit of the moon is up above the ecliptic, why it's called the ascending node. And down here we've got the south node, or and now the lunar orbit is now below the ecliptic. So that's why it's also called the descending node. So that's technically as technical as I'm going to get of what the two nodes are. So it's basically, just know that it's the intersection of the lunar orbit and the ecliptic. Now, just to give you a little bit more information, this moon, you know, this intersection, the physical moon is not always right there. But if we have the physical moon sitting right on that intersection, or fairly close, what we're going to get is, now remember, we're viewing everything from the Earth, and the sun is, you know, blasting its rays down here, down towards the Earth. So when that moon, that 3D moon, comes between the Earth and the sun, that's when we get a solar eclipse. Yay! And I'm so excited. I've seen two full solar eclipses, and I got my ticket to see the third one. And then if this moon comes around here and is sitting just exactly on that intersection point again, as you can imagine, that's going to be where the lunar eclipse is. And what's happening is the sun is shining its rays down on the Earth, but because the Earth is in the way here, it's basically creating a shadow here towards the moon. So that's why we get a lunar eclipse, because the Earth itself is in between the sun and the moon, then casting a shadow onto the moon, creating a lunar eclipse. All right, so that's there's your eclipse lecture 2 here in a few minutes. And just to let you know, you will have a nodal return after about every 18.5 years. This spot will come back to its where it was the day you were born. And what people say a lot with this north node and south node is that the north node, like I said, is what you're here to do in this life, and the south node is your old stuff you're bringing in from past lives. Now, so this area is going to be a lot more comfortable for you. Now, some astrologers say this is old baggage, this is bad, 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 stay away from it, that kind of thing. Personally, I think sometimes it's nice. I look at this as you've got these skills and these talents and this information. Use it to help you with that north node. Now, yes, that north node is going to feel more uncomfortable, but go ahead and get out there and, you may have to push yourself. Like say you've got the North Node in Sag and then the South Node in Gemini. So you might be more inclined to stay at home and maybe not go, where with Sag you should be getting out, going to university, studying abroad, getting away, that sort of thing. So you might have to push yourself a little bit. And they also say if you've got in your natal chart, if you've got other planets around that North Node, that makes that easier. If you've got other planets around the South Node, that can make it a little bit more difficult to kind of shed that energy. But I think you should use it. What the heck? And the nodes spend about 1.5 years in each sign. And another little odd thing about the nodes is that when you look at your chart, all the planets are going around and around that way. Well, the nodes go the opposite way. So they're going to be going like from Capricorn into Sag, into Scorpio, into Libra, instead of the other way, what we're used to. Now, the nodes also go retrograde, back and forth, back and forth. They wobble quite a bit. So even every few days or so, they can retrograde and go direct and that sort of thing. So you'll hear the expression, do you use the true nodes or the mean nodes? And they don't mean by being they're nasty mean. Just what they mean is, too many means there, is it an average of that rocking back and forth between retrograde and direct? So personally, I always use true node, but there's nothing wrong with using the mean node, that's for sure. Okay, I'm going to put you on pause again just for a second. Okay, and I'm going to just finish up this with talking about Chiron. So there's the glyph for Chiron. It's like a K or a key with a circle underneath. And Chiron was discovered in 1977. And actually the guy who discovered, his name was Kowal. So that's what that's a K over O, because it was a Kowal object. That's what they called it for a while. But anyway, it was... it's out there. It's right in between Saturn and Uranus. So it's kind of a bridge planet there. And there's a lot of, when it was first discovered, it was considered an asteroid. But now they're starting to call it a comet. So we'll see what finally happens. But it is Chiron, mythologically, is the wounded healer. Excuse me, I got to tilt that just there. Okay. And he's a centaur, but kind of a different one. He's got a man's body and legs, and then the back of him is a horse's patoot, I guess. Anyway, and he was a great educator, tutor to the gods. He was a healer. He could heal just about anything. But the reason he's called the wounded healer is I think it was Hercules gave him a poison arrow and he accidentally dropped it on his foot and he could never heal himself. So, so that's kind of, when you're looking at yourself, you may look at for things, where have I can't heal myself, or I feel spiritually wounded and I'm having a hard time getting out of that. So Chiron can help you with those sorts of things. And I always look at Chiron too as, I'm sure all of you have had these things where you've done something or something's happened to you, like some guy broke up with you or dumped you basically, and you cried your eyes out, and then a year later you bumped into the guy's roommate and he's like saying, oh yeah, he was dating this girl before he even quit seeing you, and then he started dating another girl before he quit dating that girl, and he was a mess, man. And you're like, oh my God, that's the best thing that ever happened to me. So I think those kinds of things too are also sort of a Chiron thing, because it can kind of show where we feel inadequate and we try to overcompensate for things. So Chiron has a 50-year orbit, and it does go retrograde, kind of like the other outer planets, every, for about 5 months, once a year. And there is, like I said, a lot of discussion on how important it is, but do find it, do look for it. It's not one of the typical planets, but it is an important planet for you to at least think about. So, oh, and I should say it has an odd orbit like Pluto. So it can spend 2 years in a sign up to 8 years in a sign. So it's a little funky that way too. So anyway, thank you guys very much, and we'll see you for probably one more class. Bye.